Hello and welcome back to Markets at Noon. IT, of course, is the big space or the big sector that has been in focus for the last few days. Let's get in Apurva Prasad now at this point of time. He's joining us. Apurva, thanks so much for taking out time for us. Not only talking about, say, a Infosys or a Wipro or a TCS. What do you make out of the commentary coming in from some of these large to mid-cap players? You think this is one of the sectors that will return to normalcy much faster, and that's what investors are trying to factor in when you look at the stock prices?
Absolutely. I think that's something that we have been talking about for the past quarter. So we've been actually quite on the bullish camp in IT sector the past 3 to 4 months, most certainly. And we do believe that there is demand recovery in sight. So we do expect that sector can improve on a sustainable basis from the second and third quarter onwards. And we are already seeing early signs of that. So we are talking of many of the industries and many of the metrics that are reverting to pre-COVID levels. So that seems to be happening. What is really helping is that there is a lot of consolidation-related opportunities which is coming through for the sectors. And going by the past track record of, growth driven by market share gains versus the overall industry tailwinds, I think that continues to be a big factor. So you can still look at the scenario that globally enterprises can still take some time to recover. You have IT sector which will probably recover earlier. And that's primarily because of they continue to gain market share, which they have been doing that. And there is past record, which suggests that. On the demand side, if you're seeing for most part of the portfolio, that is about 70-75% of the portfolio, that is not as impacted by the ongoing crisis. So it's the real impact is actually limited to 20 to 25% of the portfolio. And even there is a lot of opportunity in terms of the overall spending in technology which is going to rise eventually. So while that segment may have a slightly protracted recovery, the fact that BFSI, which was looking like a concern at the beginning of the crisis, that seems to have come back pretty strongly, and that's outperforming the overall performance. Even if you look at some of the weaker performances so far, BFSI has done relatively better, and that's the biggest chunk. So I think there are a lot of green shoots that you're looking in terms of the overall demand recovery cycle.
Okay, well, BFSI is one segment where all of these big IT majors do have a big exposure to as well. Apurva, I want to talk to you about Wipro in particular, because it's after very long that we are seeing a result that has managed to please the street. And how? Yes, revenue degrowth was present, but that again was on expected lines. The margins, they've really managed to beat the street. Do you think that sustaining momentum for Wipro would be a little tougher?
So Wipro has lagged the overall, industry growth rate. What's helping them is stronger operational performance, and we've seen that also Infosys delivering that kind of margin. So a part of it can be attributed to a short-term cutback in discretionary spend. So aspects such as cutback in travel, subcontracting, and the variable part of cost. So that has helped the near-term margin improvement, but a lot of efficiency is sustainable. And in case of Wipro, I think so while it's not up in the pecking order for us, but we have recently upgraded Wipro. I think it was last quarter on the assumption that the overall growth trajectory will improve and get closer to the overall industry growth rate. So there has been a change of guard of the leadership. And maybe that is what is required to instill some form of growth in because so they've had struggle in a big part of the portfolio. And I think they do have a fair advantage even in many of the consolidation deals that I was talking earlier about. So, the growth trajectory can only improve from there for Wipro, and I think that's partly visible in the valuations. So a part of it is hope, and part of it will probably start reflecting in numbers at some point in time. But it is really Infosys which is our preferred pick in the sector.
Right. Thanks so much for taking out time for us, Apurva. Always good to get perspective from you. But of course, the big global news overnight